Hey y'all, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and what I want to do today is give y'all the initial impressions of the XT3 Fuji. I have had this camera now for about 3 weeks. I've used it a good bit. I feel like I can now give you my opinion on this camera because I've had time to mess with it some. I've shot some video with it, not a lot, but I've used it some for video. I have come to realize I'm more of a stills photographer than a videographer. I don't know why. I like to shoot pictures more. I just ain't figured out that yet. I'm getting into video, but I haven't fully embraced it. So anyway, I bought this as a package from Y&M Camera up in Indiana. I got the battery grip and the kit 18 to 55 lens. It's a variable aperture variant. It's not the f2.8 constant aperture version of this lens. This one goes from f2.8 to f4. It's got some interesting artifacts that it produces in, like when you're shooting toward the sun. You know, like this image here shows some artifacts from the sun star having split. At the end of the day, it has the image stabilization on this lens, and I use that to great effect. I really like the image stabilization. It's a real help. I don't fully know all there is to know about this camera. I'll just tell you the truth. This screen will do things when you touch it. That's new to me. And even though I've had smartphones for a long time, I'm not used to using a touch screen on a camera. Really? You know how many airplanes actually fly over Trenton? That's pretty rare. You can hear the Doppler effect as it goes away, it gets the lower tone. Anyway, I've currently got it set up, as you can see here. Yeah, look at that, there's some inception. But to be honest with you, this camera is completely configurable. I have left most of it in its original configuration. I've remapped just a couple of the features, like the timer. The timer is buried in a menu. So I have the timer function set to this function button on the front. So if you hit it, you get this screen now, and it allows me to select what mode timer I want, you know, and I'll pick my timer, hit the button, then it sets the self-release timer, you know. I've remapped that button. I've also remapped the AF lock to back button focus. It still has in single shot mode, it tells you it's focused. But when you go to continuous, there's a button on the front of the camera here that has single shot focus, continuous focus, and manual focus. That's what that button's telling you. Now when you go to continuous, it focuses, it gives you the focus indicators in your grid area, but it doesn't make any audible sound. I leave it in continuous focus pretty much exclusively. It works. It does the whole eye tracking deal where it's got the face detect with the little square that tracks the eye, and it changes color when the eye's in focus. I get really good hit rates out of that. I really like that whole eye detect autofocus thing. That's pretty sweet. It's got a, if you swap the display in view mode, like you're going to take a picture, it brings up all these different functions. It's got sports finder where it reduces the frame so you can kind of tell when the action is going to enter the capturable area kind of thing. I'd never use it, but that's there. You swap down, it brings up the horizon indicator. You swap in the same direction again to turn that same feature off. You swap up and it brings up the color parade. Swap up again, it turns off, and then if you swap to the right, it changes the information display from large font to small fonts, basically what it's changing. And then I've got it set for touch autofocus. You can change the functions of just touching the screen. What I like about this camera is the fact of the retro design. I like that the shutter release is like a traditional shutter release. You can actually screw a cable release directly into this. It'll work. It also has the electronic cable release. I think it's in this door. It has the mic input. It has the headphone input. It has a USB-C input, which allows you to charge the battery in the camera. It has a fast charger to charge the batteries in the pack. Plus, I think it has a wall mount charger to also charge the batteries. So you have 3 different ways to charge the batteries in this camera. And the battery grip came with the rapid charger. The camera came, I want to say it has a brick style single battery charger. And then I bought a USB-C cable, and it charges just fine straight through the camera with the USB-C cable. So you have plenty of charging solutions for this little device. Now, here's the funny thing. If you're charging with USB-C, it won't charge the battery pack batteries. there's apparently some electronic isolation in here, and the current won't flow into the battery pack. It'll only flow into the battery that's in the camera proper. So just keep that in mind if you plan to charge it with a USB cable. It won't charge the battery pack batteries. I like the fact that you can charge up the battery pack with it still attached. It has its own port right here. There's a door. You don't even have to take the batteries out. It's just got a little charging port right here. You just plug it in right there, and it juices it back up. So you don't have to pull the batteries out hardly ever. It has those magical dual card slots. I do have them set as redundant backups. Oh, look, there's another port. I wonder what that one's for. That might be the electronic release port. There's a, what's that say on the door? Remote. Yeah, there's the electronic remote port. I didn't even notice it literally till just now because I'm looking at the camera. Oh, Lord. It's pretty sweet. If you want to program one of the buttons, you go to this display button and just literally hold it down for about 5 seconds, and it goes into this mode, and it allows you to set every external button on the camera. I'm just cycling through them with the down arrow here, and you can program them all to do different things. But yeah, the thumb wheels actually rotate, and they have a clickable button. If you push them straight in, you can use them as a selector as well. But I like the fact that it has an aperture ring on the lens. It has a shutter speed right here, and there's a button to lock them so you don't inadvertently change them. On both the shutter speed and ISO, you can lock them down. I'm running it in aperture priority currently because I have the shutter speed set to automatic, and I've got the aperture set to manual, and then the ISO I've got set basically currently at minimum. The function to change the shutter release options is a sub dial under this one. You just select it with this little selector switch. Currently I've got it in single shot. Your metering is a sub dial under the shutter speed dial. You can change it to what kind of metering you want. Or you want spot, area, what do they call it? Matrix is what Nikon calls it. And then whole frame metering. And then you have an exposure compensation dial. And it has 1 to 3 stops automatic. That's what these will do in 3rd stop increments. All right. And then you get past 3 and it goes around to the C mode. C turns control over to these thumb wheels then, and you can dial it all the way to 5 plus or minus once you go to C, which is custom, what they say it is. And of course on the front of the lens you have the lens release. You have a function button that I've set for the timer mode. You have the sync cable port for your flash sync. And the screen doesn't flip to the front, but it does articulate up. And then it also articulates down. Once you pull it out, it'll articulate down. And then it has another function where it'll articulate over for like low angle, you know, so if you want to shoot up, it'll give you that kind of functionality too. So it gives you, that's the 3 ranges of motion that they sell it with. I wish that it did flip forward, but it just don't. It has optical stabilization you can disable on the lens. It's typical stuff. It has an HDMI port, and that's about all the external functionality there is. You do have the diopter adjustment, which locks now. I didn't have an XT2. They said that was a real problem. People go to mess with the ISO dial, would bump their diopter and mess their diopter up. It has a smart hot shoe, and I keep the dust cover on it because I don't run a flash on this very often. I'm normally shooting outdoors with it, street photography or what have you. It has a very ergonomic feel with the battery grip especially. The battery grip's very deep. I don't know if you can tell it there, but it gives you a good hand if you want to hold it. I'll carry it upside down a lot because it rides on the fingers good there. Then it has a thumb rest right here that's very well designed. You can kind of see it if I get the light right. See that protrusion? It's perfect to catch your thumb on, and your fingers roll around onto the front of the grip perfectly. There's no knuckle binding onto the lens or anything. It's well with the kit lens. It could be different with the other lenses. I haven't gotten any other Fujinon lenses at this point. I've got an adapter for my Nikkor lenses, and I've shot it with like the 200mm and things like that. And it works great. I bought it bundled because I wanted the battery grip, because I wanted the extra capacity, because it gives you 2 batteries in the grip, where my D810 only adds 1 in the grip. So I can put 2 batteries in the D810, but I can put 3 in this XT3. I have yet to run all 3 batteries down in one day. I'm really a big proponent of battery grips just for that reason. It's just life is simpler. The tracking, the focus works beautifully. It has a little bit of issues with noise in the shadows, and you can see with this little clip here that the noise is easily removed in Lightroom, but you need to know it's a thing. It may be, I don't know if it's a function of the Fuji sensor tech or what, but it just seems like there's more noise than in the D810's full frame sensor. Okay, what I have here is I have an image I've shot on the XT3 that was shot, as you can see, in broad daylight, and I've done a bunch of heavy edits over here. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is the noise. If we go down here to this portion of the frame, you know, this is 100% crop. You can see what I've done is I've got medium contrast enabled over here. We turn it to linear, you can see some of the noise starting to reappear. So what we got, let's see if I hit Y, you can see the unedited versus the edited. Okay, there's more detail in the shadow, but with it in direct sun, you want the shadow. And you can kind of see the noise as it appears in the frame. Of course, I brought this up some so that we could see what was going on in the transition area. But I've had to basically go over here to detail. I have to bring the noise up between 25 and 30. I've found with these bright sun images. And if you go, you can see I'm using Adobe Vivid for color. I'm pulling the highlights back because of the direct sun, and you see how it's blowing in the direct sunlight. And then I'm bringing the shadows up so we can see a little transition detail from the bright sun into the shadow. I'm having to add a little clarity and a little dehaze. I always like to run these up a little bit. It's just my personal preference. But these images, as you can see, there are some blown highlights that I'm pulling back, and I'm getting some of it back, but it's still blown out. You can see a little bit of a halo here because of it that you can't escape. The direct sun is just so hard for this camera to work with, but it does have a fair bit of noise in the shadows. I've noticed I have to do a lot of noise reduction to get the noise out of the shadow areas. But with that, I'll be honest with you, I think as far as a general photography camera, and from what I can tell for video, it does really well with video. You probably would want better stabilization. The Fuji stabilization is, yeah, it ain't as good as Olympus, say. If you run it tripoded, or if you run slow-mo so you get good slow tracking, or you do all the tricks that they teach you to minimize camera shake while you're filming, this is a good camera. Is it a good vlogging camera? No, it is not a good vlogging camera. It's a good camera, but it has no way of composing yourself except through the app. And the app works really well, but it's just not convenient. So it's, honestly, it's not a good solution to vlog. I mean, the Canon M50 is pretty good. The Sony RX100 Mark V or 6, those are great vlogging cameras. And, you know, those, they're compact, they're light, they have good video output, have real good focus, they have a screen that flips forward for composition. So as far as that goes, this is not the camera for that job. Would I recommend the XT3 to a general photographer? Yes. It's a great street photography camera. It has that cool look of photography. It just looks like a camera, you know. And I wanted the silver one because it looked more classic, or whatever that term is, retro, I guess. But at the end of the day, yeah, I can say this is a great piece of equipment, especially at the price point. So with that, I appreciate you guys watching. And this is David, the Georgia photographer, and I'll see you next time. By the way, if y'all like my video, hit that like button. And if you want to see more from my channel, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, again, we'll see y'all. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.